Hello, I'm Annette Young and welcome to the 51%, a show about women reshaping our world. Coming up, the tale of a secret women's language in China that's existed since feudal times and the attempts to keep it alive by those who are still using it in the southern province of Hunan. And we meet a journalist and a fellow activist from the Kurdish region in Iraq who are seeking to amplify female voices in the region, this in a society where a woman drawing attention to herself can run the risk of death. But first, a Nushu, or women's book, is a writing system that was kept secret for centuries in feudal China. At a time when women were denied an education, bound to their husbands and rarely left their homes, they developed their own secret language. It allowed them to communicate without being understood by men. Nushu has almost disappeared, but our reporters went to meet those who are striving to keep it alive.
In the south of China, hidden among the hills of Hunan province, sits the village of Puwei with just 200 inhabitants. It is here where Nushu, or women's book, is thought to have been born. Nushu is a unique and once secret language system created by and for women. It has almost disappeared. To keep it alive, Hu Xin has dedicated her life to studying the characters.
Unlike Mandarin, Nushu is written in a losange shape. The characters are elongated, the lines are gracious, like a woman. There are only 4 basic elements: dots, vertical, inclined and curved lines.
Spoken Nushu sounds like the local dialect, but only the guardians of the language can still read and write it. Authorities confer this title to the rare women who still practice Nushu, and Hu Xin is the youngest.
It's a precious heritage, which has been passed on through our generations of Nushu guardians. I also hope to pass it on to the future generations.
In this rural region, women didn't learn how to read and write Mandarin. Thanks to Nushu, they could discreetly pass on messages to each other. The notes were private. When discovered, they were supposed to be burnt or buried along with their authors. The women's words reveal their collective suffering, but also their solidarity, a cornerstone of Nushu culture. Hu Xin and Hu Yanxin are not related. They have a 50-year age gap, but they're like sisters. The 2 women meet once a week. They catch up, read, and sometimes write a few lines.
We enjoy the present moment together. It's my life. I live it the way I want. Is that it?
For Hu Xin, learning Nushu was life-changing. It gave her the courage to leave her husband in a rural region where divorce is still frowned upon.
While studying Nushu, I realized that women should be independent and have the right to make their own choices. My ex-husband and I didn't get along well, so I decided to end our marriage.
Nushu education is now supervised by local authorities. These days, the writing system is no longer a secret, but it is still on the verge of extinction. Only 6 Chinese women are still considered to be the guardians of Nushu.
Now, as we recently reported here on the 51%, 20 years has passed since the fall of the Iraqi dictator Saddam Hussein. It was hoped that in the years following that it would become an opportunity for those campaigning for gender equality. But sadly, little has changed. And joining me in the studio today are now 2 young women visiting Paris, both taking part in a training initiative by Humanitarian Aid and Journalism, an association teaching women journalism techniques so that voices can indeed be heard. Ahang Habib is a journalist working with Kirkuk Now in the Iraqi disputed areas, and Soma Farhang is an activist within the women's empowerment organisation based in Erbil. Thanks to both of you for coming in and talking to us.
Thank you.
Soma, let me start with you. The impression from outside of Iraq is that the Kurdish region, and certainly Erbil, is far more progressive than other parts of the country, particularly when it comes to women's rights. Is that indeed the case?
Yes, I can definitely confirm on this part. Since you have mentioned the fall of Saddam happened 20 years ago, and little has been made because the changes that we can see in Iraq overall and it's not as much as we have expected to see. But in the Kurdistan region, we can definitely say that there are more progress than Iraq or the rest of the Iraq. And in this matter, I can just put it down in terms of education. Girls are getting more educated now. The education has changed into Kurdish language. People are studying their mother languages. People are going, like females are going to the universities where they were not allowed to go to universities. But I can 100% make sure that it's not all over Kurdistan region that they are supported to go there. There are still some cases that we can see in some areas that women are not given the right to study. And in terms of empowerment, women are being empowered more often in a public way, asking for gender equality and supporting them for example, driving, nominating themselves to go into the decision-making progresses into the parliament. Even now, I can proudly say that our first speaker of parliament is a female, and it will stay to be a female. And because one day I want to run for the parliament member, hopefully. So it's definitely a support that we can feel, even with the organizations that's led by females, that women, they support each other to achieve their goals and to be in the decision-making progresses. But I cannot say that for the rest of the Iraq, unfortunately.
Ahang, what is the situation in Kirkuk in regards to women and the status of women?
Let me talk about whole disputed areas, not just Kirkuk. Like we have challenges. I will summarize my words in one sentence. Disputed areas, especially in Iraq in general, is not a safe society for women to live in. You and your audience may wonder why. Like the answer of the question here is we have still we depend on quota system. Still we have militias in disputed areas that have authority in the disputed areas, and still we have if women face violence in all the sides. While working, while in society, inside a family, and despite all of this, we have. Despite all of the challenges, we said we have in disputed areas community full of women who are like survivors of war. Like, after the war of ISIS, we got millions of women living in disputed areas, and after the ISIS, and also in Mosul. So yeah, it's a bit challenging to women to live in the disputed areas, especially and Iraq. Generally, that's why I am telling you that Iraqi society is not a safe society for women to live in.
Soma, with that in mind, how do you change a traditional conservative society that very much celebrates the patriarchy?
That's a hard question to answer because there needs to be many changes. And I would first definitely start with the Constitution. The Constitution needs to be changed. There needs to be structure. There needs to be plans. And with that, we can start to build that. It will take time, but it is achievable.
Ahang, I'm fascinated to know, what is it like working as a female journalist in your part of the world? Because from what you've just said, it's not a safe place to begin with, and being a journalist must make it doubly more difficult.
It's really challenging. Let me share my experience with you guys. And since I'm a journalist, I may be aware of the female journalists also in disputed areas and in IKR and whole Iraq. It's really challenging. When you live in a country full of militias, when you live in a country that tribes have more authority than the government, lack of system. Sometimes, we don't have a food security, national security is in danger. So it's really challenging.
No journalist rights.
Yeah. Like we have laws for journalists, but like when it comes to the in courts, we don't have implementation, and the journalists sometimes will be dealt with laws for terrorism. That's why it's really challenging to be a journalist. And when it comes to be a female journalist, it doubles. The challenges will be doubled because, gender equality still, we don't have gender equality still in Iraq. So like when you're a journalist, it's challenging. But when you become a female journalist, the challenges will be doubled for you.
Soma, I want to talk about the training program that you're now on, and of course the key part about all this is teaching journalism techniques to women in order to amplify their voices. In your opinion, is this a way forward to change the status quo?
Yes, because changing the status quo, it's not only in one way. It has many different ways, and communication is one of them. For example, that we're doing this program with AJ organization under the project of Women's Voices Without Borders. They are teaching us so many things from A to Z, podcasting and media, how to use our voices to make a change through environment, women, gender equality, activists. It's bringing all of it together, and we can show the girls that are like us or like in the disputed areas that there is hope for them, there is a change, and we are trying to reach them through our voices. Their voices can be our voices and ours can be theirs. So it is doable, because I believe that everything can be achieved. So yes.
Ahang, the other key thing in all of this is social media. And of course, not only is it the case of spreading information, but disinformation, and particularly with fake news. And the arrival of artificial intelligence, I imagine, is going to make things even more problematic.
When it comes to speaking on AI, it's a bit soon for Iraq. But when we talk about like misinformation, disinformation, and malinformation, it's really nowadays common in Iraq, and through social media you can feel it. 2 weeks ago, because of the fake photo of Yazidis like attacked Muslim mosque in Sinjar, like it's a big chaos happened, okay, in Sinjar, and it took 4 days for government to normalize the situation. That's why like misinformation and disinformation nowadays, it's really dangerous, and it's really challenging for journalists to deal with it, because like social media is now common in the world, and including Iraq and including disputed areas, and it's really challenging, yeah.
Ahang and Soma, we're going to have to leave it there. Thank you to both of you for coming in and talking to us today.
Thank you for having us.
Thank you for having us.
And that's it for this edition. We'd love to hear your suggestions for the 51%, so do get in touch with us via Facebook, Instagram or Twitter, and you can catch our previous episodes on our website. So until our next show, bye for now.